by control, but empathy? Do we sometimes chase recognition when what we really want is respect? In this episode, you'll learn how the movie John Carter from 2012 shows us that true leadership is rooted in integrity and not dominance. Welcome to the Fandom Portals podcast, a podcast that explores how fandoms and film can help us learn and grow. I'm Aaron, a teacher and lifelong film fan, and each week on the podcast, we explore the stories we love to learn more about ourselves and the worlds that shape us. Today, I am joined by my co-host, Brash. Rackham.
Hello.
And today we are introducing a brand new theme arc, which is titled Failure Isn't Final. And we decided to look at all of the movies that aimed high, stumbled, but still have something to teach us. And by stumbled, we mean they absolutely flopped at the box office. They either flopped at the box office or they underperformed to the point where they had catastrophic, what's the word I'm looking for? Consequences for any kind of sequel that kind of occurred, or for the studio at least. So from misguided epics to misunderstood visions, this series will ask, what do stories that failed to find their audience teach us about finding ourselves? And the very first installment is none other than John Carter from 2012, which is in fact, to date, at time of recording, the largest financial flop in the history of Brash. Do you want a brief synopsis to this floppy fish of a film?
Yeah. John Carter follows a weary Civil War veteran who is mysteriously transported to Mars, known by its inhabitants as Barsoom. Thanks to the planet's low gravity, Carter gains the incredible strength and leaping abilities, can leap building in a single bound, just like Superman.
Yep.
Carter, which drags him into a conflict between warring Martian nations. He befriends the four-armed Thrax, encounters the brilliant warrior princess Deja Thoris, and slowly becomes a reluctant hero who might be able to change the fate of a dying planet. As Carter learns the politics and cultures of Barsoom, he uncovers the influence of mysterious Therns, powerful beings manipulating the war from the shadows. What begins as Carter's attempt to escape his past becomes a journey of purpose, love, loyalty, and as he fights to unite the planet and protect the people he has grown to care for.
Or at least that's what they say he does.
No, they say does. Who knows? Who really knows?
Who really knows, indeed.
His nephew will know.
Yes, his nephew, who apparently wrote the stories. But in this episode, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you will learn that our theme arc, which is Failure Isn't Final, but specifically we're going to teach or learn the fact from John Carter that true leadership is rooted in integrity and not dominance. And we're also going to be looking, first of all, why this film flopped. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to get our community's thoughts on this movie because we did some polls on our threads and our Instagrams, and the responses are pretty intriguing. And we're also going to have a look at how the characters are represented to see how leadership or even just the aspect of dominance through a lot of violence in this movie is portrayed on film. Interestingly, Ash, we did a poll on our Threads community and we had up to, or just over 200 responses. And the question was John Carter a bad movie? Which way do you think our poll swung? Was it a bad movie, yes, or was it a bad movie, no?
Knowing how I feel, I'm going to say that it wasn't a bad movie.
Well, you would be with the majority. 76% of our responders and community members said that John Carter was not a bad movie. Great movie? Bad movie? No. And 24% said yes, it was a very bad movie. So I think for me, there were a lot of positives for this movie in terms of its visual spectacle. It was a lovely movie to watch, especially being from 2012. I mean, like the Martians looked a little bit janky, how you going? But the scenes and the battles and the spaceships and all of the different effects, including John Carter like jumping from place to place like a human-sized flea, it was all done pretty well. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Taylor Kitsch, the lead actor, reported that he hated it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with the spectacle of it. It was like the world building itself was absolutely phenomenal. And it seems like they, you probably know because you're smarter than I am, but the trick that they use in movies where they shoot everything in so it really brings out like the blues.
Yep. Yeah, they used different color corrective lenses and they did color grading after the fact in post-production, yeah.
Because you can tell because like Lynn Collins.
Yeah, her eyes.
Holy, just
bluer than sapphires.
That's it.
Yes,
But
I
yeah,
100% agree.
it's always like that's like almost the first thing you see when you see her,
Yep.
because you see her face and then bang, just these like really blue eyes, and you're like, damn, how'd you get eyes? Because my eyes are blue, but then I blue.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely color grading. And you know what? That has a very strong similarity to a lot of the characters in Dune. And funnily enough, this book, the John Carter book, predates Dune and it predates Star Wars. And it actually laid the foundation to a lot of those
Sci-fi
sci-fi
kinds.
fantasy things that we really know and love today. Like, for example, what was his name? Edgar Rice Burroughs, who's really well known for writing the Tarzan books. And this was his other well known series, John Carter of Mars. Yeah, it literally came out in the early 90s. And obviously, Star Wars didn't come out till the 70s. So this was
Yeah,
definitely an influencing factor, but still not as popular as those things that came after it, which is interesting.
yeah. Well, I think it was just more of a failure to launch, because
Oh, yeah.
back the creator of Looney Tunes, um, Warner Brothers, we're going to make a animated adaptation back
Mm.
in the early like 1930s or something, like 1950s or something like that. We're going to make well, before it was actually going to be before Snow White, the
Yeah,
animated
yeah.
movie Snow White, and they had it going there, and it just couldn't go anywhere. They just
Gather any
couldn't
moss.
get
Couldn't get any funding. Yeah.
get it off the ground, and then it wasn't until like 2012, like 80 years later or what it was, that they finally were able to do something with it and make a movie. But
Yeah. There was lots of big names attached to this throughout the years as well, like studio wise and directorially speaking. And to your point as well, Disney did end up picking it up and they sunk a lot of money into it because it came out or it was going to be released during a time when Disney was basically looking for their next big thing. So Pirates of the Caribbean was coming towards an end and it wasn't performing like it used to at the box offices. So it was looking for its next big sort of franchise that it could hang its hat on. And you'll remember during this time, movies like The Prince of Persia came out, John Carter came out as well, Sorcerer's Apprentice, all those kind of movies that were almost like they were almost good. They were almost good,
yeah,
but they weren't quite there. This was the one that Disney sort of put all its bank into. And we had one of our community members whose name was Haulaway Holdfast that said this isn't a bad movie, and it only failed because Disney sat on their asses and didn't market it at all. And after doing some reading, I actually potentially agree because it has an ineffective marketing campaign to where the trailers really failed to justify or clearly explain the plot of the movie because it wasn't such a branded IP like Star Wars or Dune was. It was really kind of hard to sell to the point where it was kind of like a misleading tone as well. So the director, whose name was Andrew Stanton, he kind of rejected the studio's ideas and led this ineffective campaign, you might say. One example that they give is that he put Led Zeppelin's Kashmir in one of the trailers and was seen as making the film seem a little bit dated. Another one
yeah,
was this movie was set to be premiered through its trailer release during one of the Super Bowls, and that's a really great time for movies to debut their trailers because obviously it gets millions and millions of viewers. But there's a really unlucky slot, and it happens when somebody has an injury, basically. Like if somebody has an injury and they play one of the ad slots, it's like a hoodoo that apparently that movie is going to go bad. And John Carter, its trailer occurred during
played
an injury
injury.
stoppage during the Super Bowl. So it lacked promotion. This was also the director's first stint at a live action movie. The director, Andrew Stanton, is actually like really well known in the animation scene. He directed and wrote A Bug's Life, Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, Wall-E, Toy Story 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
And his live action writing credits, he's written the Obi-Wan series as well. And, you know, he had a good writing team with him, like Michael Chabon. He wrote the screenplay for Spider-Man 2, arguably the best Spider-Man movie. So it's not to say that there wasn't talent behind the scenes with this movie, but it was also reported that Disney kind of looked at Andrew Stanton because of his success and was just like, here's a blank check. And he has himself admitted that he was kind of drunk with the money and the power of it. But one thing I've noticed is I actually dove into the John Carter novel a little bit in preparation for this podcast, and it is a very, I will say it's dated. It's entertaining, but it's dated to the point where it is a very like journalistic account of John Carter's time on Mars, and it's very first person. And by that I mean we are figuring things out about this planet of Barsoom as John Carter figures it out in the
yeah,
books. Whereas in this movie, the scale is completely expanded to the point where, as we commented before, the world building, the nations, all those things existed, the Tarks, they were all there, but it was released sort of slowly, which I think may or may not have worked better or worse for this film because you were kind of given time to absorb it. So some mistakes were made, I think, but I also think some things happened that were out of this movie's control that caused it to flop a little bit.
Yeah, well, one of the things was the title, John Carter. Like, instead of saying like John Carter and the Princess of Mars or John Carter of Mars or something like that, like it's just John Carter. Like,
Exactly, yeah.
and
That was a
so,
last minute decision too. Because you'll
yeah,
notice in some of the promo, they still have the symbols that has a JCM. That's like the logo of the John Carter franchise if it ever took off. But
yeah,
obviously in the title, we've got John Carter until the very end of the movie.
yeah, and because this in the John Carter movie, it took a lot of its basis off the book Princess of Mars of that
Yep.
series. So like having it say like John Carter and the Princess of Mars or something like that probably would have helped it just by people being able to be more aware of what it actually is than just John Carter.
Or at least they'd know what they're going into, you know? They don't,
Yeah, exactly.
you
Well,
kind
see,
of,
Disney avoided using Mars in anything they did with this movie. Like the
yeah,
whole premise of this was about being on Mars, and they just didn't say anything about Mars.
and I heard that was because their film Mars Needs Mums or something like that really
Yeah,
flopped and failed. So that they thought that Mars was a word that they couldn't use in their
horrible
production
word.
anymore. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm just wondering, like, there's this whole fear of risk coming from Disney through this era as well, because as I said before, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides had a huge budget and it came out at a similar time just before, and it had a lower than expected profit. This one here had a massive budget as well, over 300 million, and it didn't rake in as much
see,
as that, let's just say.
but and what confuses me, especially like with Disney, is they predicate all these fears, but they don't even know the cause themselves. They just
Mm-hmm.
it's just they shoot from the hip. What they do is they play it safe and they deviate from what the original media is about, and then they just take that fear from there and let
Yeah.
it run rampant.
I mean, it was a pretty competitive release in terms of 2012 because it was the same year, obviously, the Avengers came out, the Dark Knight Rises came out. John Carter had to stand out a lot in order to make its money back, for one. And one thing that a lot of people have said as well, and some of our community has said that as well, is that Taylor Kitsch kind of wasn't leading man material enough to carry a film into a franchise. So we have William the Tracker that says lead actors must have some measure of charisma, whether they're unknown or movie stars. The two leads in this were boring. The movie's amazing visuals, just couldn't save it. So that was the other side of the opinions.
Did they say who the second lead was?
I think they're talking about Lynn Collins in this space. Or if they're talking about Willem Dafoe, I'll have to disagree because Tars Tarkas
Yeah.
was my favorite character
So
in the
I
movie.
guess I think
I'm going to talk about him a lot later.
well, realistically, for a lot of the time, it is like if you look at Lynn Collins' amount that she's in it, for like a lot of the sort of end start, she's not really in it except for when they do like the flash
No.
over to where she is.
No.
But there's a whole huge chunk of when he's there with the Thrax.
Yeah. And I think
yeah.
like the cast is pretty stacked. Like it's got Willem Dafoe as Tars Tarkas, Mark Strong as Matthias Shang, Dominic West is in as Sab Thorne, and we have also Thomas Hayden Church, who everybody knows as Sandman in Spider-Man 3. He plays Tal Hajas. And then Solar as well, played by Samantha Morton, and obviously we have Taylor Kitsch playing the titular John Carter. I am a fan of Taylor Kitsch, I will say, but I am a fan of him from Friday Night Lights. And in Friday Night Lights, he played a very brooding football player called Tim Riggins. And I feel like his brooding nature has carried him through a lot of different roles that he has played in his time here. People might also know him from Wolverine Origins, where he played a version of Gambit that wasn't very well received. But I feel like he has made his name more well known in the TV scene, playing parts in The Terminal List and also True Detective. What was your thoughts on Taylor Kitsch as a leading man in this one? Brash, were you sold by him or not so much? Dialogue stilted is some of the comments we got from our threads.
That's what I was going to say. I don't mind him in the lead, man. I reckon he makes a perfect John Carter. The writing wasn't very
The dialogue
great.
writing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that's universal. I don't think it's a Taylor Kitsch thing and just John Carter's lines. I think the lines throughout these movies from a lot of the characters are a little bit stilted. And it's kind of corny cliche as well. So even to the point where, like, at the start, Matthias
very
Shang.
Disney.
Yeah, exactly.
Very Disney. Yeah.
And maybe it's because we're coming at from an adult lens and it's meant for people maybe younger than us. I don't know.
Well,
But
I don't know how, because you got people getting their arms cut off and
yeah, very
this
true. Very
stuff
true.
in the movie, and like the whole pit where the
Slaughter all the
Thrax
hatchlings.
slaughter all the hatchlings because they can't take them with them, and
Yep.
because
Yeah.
they're not strong enough to climb out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think
So
that there are some adult things. That's probably another thing. It didn't really hit its tone in terms of its target audience. It's like,
no,
was it?
it seemed too light. Like everything seemed too light and bright to deal with some of the themes that were in it.
Yeah, exactly. So it wasn't quite for kids, but it wasn't quite for adults, and it kind of was a bit too corny and cheesy for teenagers. So I think it definitely flopped for a reason, you could say, but I don't think the reason is because Taylor Kitsch couldn't carry the project. So with that being said, obviously yourself and our community, or the majority of our community, believe that it's not a bad movie. Through this theme arc, we're looking at what failures can teach us. And one of the things that I kept noting through this movie, and part of our most valuable takeaway, is that I found in this one that I was looking at leadership, more specifically through our main character of John Carter, but also through some of the other characters as well, and how power changes hands within this movie. And I think one thing that I found was that power in Barsoom, or in Mars, in this movie was very much strength based. It was based on control. It was based on fear. It was based on sustained, outdated systems of power that really showed one person's dominance over another. And that's historically accurate for the time period that it was written, for sure.
Who has the biggest dick?
Basically, yeah. Who has the biggest dick? Who has the biggest stick? But it's literally the first scene of the movie when, Matthias Shang comes down and says, "You'll rule over all of Barsoom and there'll be no one who can defy you," when he gives him the ninth ray weapon. And then Sad Thorn is a pawn and a puppet for the rest of the movie, where he's leading the nation of Zidanga.
Yeah.
It's Zidanga, isn't it? Yeah. And Zidanga go through and just annihilate everything on Barsoom using this basically god weapon. And it's to me, that sort of pattern continues throughout all of the different societies in Barsoom. Like, obviously through the Tarks, it echoes in a more primal form, because they had this survivalist brutality as well. And compassion has no place in the Tharks either.
Yeah. And then, but they go as far as even to say it, like how they've watched countless worlds destroy themselves to be rebuilt again, then they were just helping this one along. And by giving him the god weapon, because he'll just destroy everything will die, and then they'll start again. Instead of trying to fix it or make it better.
Well, that's the whole message through the whole thing, isn't it? The people that Matthias Shang belong to, I've forgotten what they're actually called, but the people that Matthias Shang belong to, they have supposedly watched over lots of generations of people, and they pick a very controllable person to install their will on a planet and basically take over it via conquest. So you can see that this is like a primitive way to control people and oppress them, to the point where it exposes a world where obedience basically replaces respect. So there's also some theorists whose name is Borman and Polensky, and they say that if leaders lead with ethical principles and not with dominance, it fosters long-term cohesion. So followers don't respond to fear indefinitely, basically, because they respond to fairness, purpose, and consistency, which is not the case in this story of John Carter, because basically the guy with the biggest weapon is going to win, or in the fact of the Tharks, it's the strongest one will rule. And Tars Tarkas is that, or at least he's posturing to be that for a great portion of the film, until Taj Hajas, who's played by Thomas Hayden Church, takes over, because he's showing the weakness of compassion, I'll say in quote marks, towards Solar. So it's very, very evident primarily through the Tharks, because even as you said before, there are 18 hatchlings who are yet to hatch, they said, and they're not worthy to be a Thark. So they literally just destroy them. So there's just that indoctrinated idea that dominance and strength is what takes control. And for me, I really wanted John Carter to stand above that and basically not reinforce this theme, but subvert it. But through this movie, and towards the end especially, he basically gains power through the same means that any other person in this world does, which is through power and a show of brute force and strength in the arena. Yep. And basically he's using the villain's way to control and gain power, as opposed to doing something opposite and being a leader in that manner as well. So I kind of don't think John Carter is representing good leadership or good traits of a leader in this movie. I feel like he is definitely one of the least popular characters, in my eyes at least, that shows how he can change a system, if you know what I mean by that.
Yeah, but that goes along with his character too, because his character through the whole line is he doesn't want to lead, he doesn't want to do anything, he just wants to be left alone with his little gold mine and just be
See,
a recluse.
I was not sold on that either, because he's a guy, right, that just wants his cave of gold, is what they kept going back to the whole time. And he even said to his Confederate buddy at the start, he was just like, whatever it is I was supposed to owe to your country, I've paid in full, because we get those flashbacks where he lost his wife and his child. And he plays with the wedding band throughout the movie to show that he's got this history as to siding with somebody and it going against him in the long run personally. So I think what was supposed to come off as him being non-committal due to a morally righteous reason, like, I don't feel like he's not fighting or engaging in a cause because he's opposed to the violent way that they're oppressing power. I feel like it's because he just doesn't want to, which, like, he doesn't go one way or the other. And when he actually does, he doesn't commit to a side because of any kind of belief or value that changes. He does it for romantic interest. So he falls in love with Deja Thoris. Yeah, he falls in love with Deja Thoris. And then, she actually has a real banger of a quote too. Because when they're in the cave and they're working out how the transporting system worked when they follow the river of Is, he says to her, war is a shameful thing. And then she says back to him, not when a noble cause is taken up by those who can make a difference. And he says, you made a difference today, Virginia. Name your price. And he goes, I'm not for hire. So I think that she is the one planting the seeds of the values, and she is actually making a difference through changing the culture, changing the way of something that could occur, whereas John Carter just jumps in and uses violence to take over and be a leader again. So the two people that go against this trend is Deja Thoris and Tars Tarkas, and they're my favorite characters. So I don't know why John Carter gets the respect at the end, because I feel like Tars Tarkas throughout shows the Tarks a new way to exist, whereas John Carter just comes in and incites them for a war that they're not really involved in to start with. And that's my rant about how John Carter isn't a hero.
To be fair, though, the only reason why Tars Tarkas does change his stance is because of John Carter.
That point I will give you. He is so indoctrinated in the culture. Like, Tars Tarkas sees John Carter
has his daughter, like, just allows his daughter to be marked so many times just because he doesn't want to try to fight against it.
Very good point. To the point where John Carter actually speaks out against his decision. And he works out, and he says there's no room left to mark her. Basically, she has no room for another mark. So it shows you that Tars Tarkas is unwillingly moving forward with the cultural practice of the Tarks. John Carter comes and basically verbally outbursts towards it and says, this isn't the way that you should do it. So yes, okay, he does inspire Tars Tarkas to act upon his thoughts of compassion. However, he does rally the mob through forces of violence in the end. So he does move one stone in Tars Tarkas, I'll give him that. But in the end, he falls back to old habits. And then, he even claims, like, fight like a Thark in the arena scene there. And, there's that whole thing where they say a warrior may change his metal, but not his heart. And I think that John Carter changes he's supposed to be portrayed as this virtuous hero. And I'm just not sold on it, Brash, the whole time, because his motivations are murky from situation to situation.
I don't think he is meant to be sold as a virtuous hero. He's not the hero they deserve. He's the hero they need.
Okay. Tell me more.
Well, so he's sick of war because of his family dying, and his family's died. He doesn't want to be part of it anymore. He keeps getting dragged back into it reluctantly, and he keeps trying to find a way out. But his nature isn't for war; it's to protect. But he couldn't protect his family.
Right.
So even when he's trying to run away, they run into the Indians, and Bryan Cranston's character gets shot, and he's riding off. And he looks back and sees that he's injured, and he's like, and just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't just ride off. He had to turn back. He had to turn back and say, like, at least try and save him. And then it's the same with the Thrax. He doesn't want to get involved. He keeps trying to escape, which keeps messing up Solar, unfortunately. Eventually he becomes sort of a protector for Solar as well.
Yeah, because he's instructed to take her with him down the river Is. And that was the condition Tars Tarkas said. He's just like, I'll let you guys go, because you have shamed us through our cultural traditions, but I'll let you guys go if you take her because you can't take another mark.
And then the same thing. Then she also, by the way, Solar was probably my favorite character in the show, played by Samantha Morton. She was in The Whale, plays the daughter's mother in The Whale. Amazing movie. But also with who am I thinking of now? When he gets dragged into Deja Thoris's the conflict with them as well. How she's like, "Oh, help us fight him. You got amazing powers. Help us fight him." And he's like, "I don't want to fight anyone. I just want my gold and I want to go away because every time I get dragged into someone, I have to protect something and I end up getting hurt for it." But I mean, eventually the attraction of her does give in. Does take away, but I don't think it's purely because the fact that she's attractive. I think it's because of all the things he's seen her do. The fact that she can protect herself. The fact that she is brave and strong and smart in her own right. That he feels that he doesn't have to always protect her. He doesn't have to be the protector of her. He can just, and you see that towards the end. He's realistically, he's not the leader of the people anymore.
He is though.
No, not.
Oh, you mean right at the end?
Not Tux. Right at the end.
He sits with Deja Thoris, who is the leader. Deja.
Yes, Deja Thoris. Right. He's the leader.
He's the concubine.
He's the concubine. He's and like he's the leader of the Thrax, but well, he's not. He's not the leader, isn't he? He's the right hand.
Well, he challenges
because he fights on behalf of Tartarchus.
I don't think he does. He challenges. No, he challenges Tal Hajas in combat because that's what their tradition dictates, and he beats Tal Hajas in a violent episode where he basically beheads him after defeating 2 white large apes, which also you could say is metaphorical to what and foreshadowing to what happens before, because there's the 2 big nations of Zidonga and Helium fighting each other, so that's like the 2 apes that are coming through, and then John Carter basically squashes one with the other and then takes off the head, which is Tal Hajas in this situation. But that's the part that I'm not really sold on for him, because Bauman says that true leaders should align their actions with their values, and earning respect through fairness and empathy is better than earning it through showings of strength and violence. So he says that I'm done with war, I don't want to fight anything, but even before he picks a side, he solves every conflict with violence, every single one. He jumps into battle at a moment.
It's not like he's going up to walk up to the Indians and say, "Hey, peace," and just hope he's not going to get. He tried to talk, but one of the other guys shot first.
Yes,
it wasn't his fault. And then they start shooting at him. So what was he going to do? Just let him shoot him and just be like, "Oh no, man, I'm cool." And the same in the arena. He is strapped to a boulder, which pretty much gets rid of his jumping and his strength abilities. And then it wasn't until Solus and Tartarchus were in trouble that he then goes all
superhuman flea,
Superman, and bust the rock and smash the other white ape and throw the other white ape, do all the violency part. It's only when the others are about to pretty much die that he comes in and saves them. And it's the same when they're leaving the River of Is. He jumps off the thing to fight. He could have died right then too when he does that big epic just sword. That I love that part too. It's like one of my favorite parts. But no, he does that so the others could get away, not so he was to be some big hero and not to even probably survive. He didn't think he was probably going to survive, but he does, of course, because he's the main character.
They knew him for the second one that never happened.
That plot armor, but he doesn't do it for himself. He does everything. Every time he fights, he does it for someone else. And that's why he wanted his gold, like his cave of gold. That's why he wanted to go away from it all and be a recluse, because he keeps getting dragged into other people's wars and fights when he doesn't want to. And then that's why at the very end, when it's all said and done, he's like, "I'm now just going to be a concubine and you can run the joint and I'm just going to be your boy toy."
See, that's what I think I don't like about him, because empowering others creates a lasting transformation, right? And he empowered the Tharks to join Helium, and it's leadership that's based on warfare and his charisma and the show of force that he had. And what's going to happen when Zidanga are defeated? Are they going to negotiate treaties between the Tharks and Helium? Like, what kind of leader is he then? Because he's just incited this mob to fight for them due to the mutual cause that they have. But then in the end of the movie, the true villains, which is the people that are led by Matthias Shang, Mark Strong's character, they're still around. And to the point where they send him back to Earth. So when he leaves and he goes, and the fact that he hasn't really created that lasting change through empowering others, like he's empowered Taz Tarkas, yes, I'll agree with that. But was that enough for him to really sort of sit and say that it's the moral conundrum or the moral contradiction that doesn't sit right with me for him? It's the fact that, yes, I know he's fighting people because he's dragged into it and because he's kind of forced to. But I just feel like if he is going to be a leader that leads through fairness and respect.
But he's not going to be a leader.
Yeah,
that's that's the whole point. The whole point is he doesn't want to be a leader.
He's also gaining peace through like war and destruction, which is exactly the same thing that Sab Tharn's doing.
But that was the thing is that was already happening. He didn't incite the war. He didn't start the war. Well, realistically, with his help, he finished the war. He stopped the war.
Well, I can agree with that.
The war was fighting. The war was starting before him, and then the Thrax.
Yeah, the Tarks.
They and they were an oppressed people living in ruins that had to hide every time a ship flew over the top.
Well, that's why they loved him so much, is because he had a power that they thought, well, Taz Tarkas thought they could use against Zidanga. Yeah, because he was the jumping man.
Exactly. He was just another weapon for someone else to use when they drag him into their conflict. But he shows them all that, well, he shows Helium and the Tarks that there's a new, different way. Unfortunately, the Empire is a different story. They couldn't tell them because they were so blinded and so enthralled by the Therns that they were beyond. Well, realistically, once the leader of the Therns, what's his name, was killed, the fight was over, everyone sort of surrendered, and that was the end of it. Like
classic runtime issue right there. It's just we can't talk about how this is going to completely resolve, so they're all going to surrender when their leader dies.
But for all intents and purposes, all he wants is peace. He wants to end wars, and he accomplished that goal.
I think for John Carter, it's more about him finding belonging because, you know, he'd lost his place in terms of where he belonged in the Confederate Army. He lost his wife and his child, so he really had nothing sort of going for him. And then when he went to Barsoom, he found a new cause and a new person to love. So for him, his story was kind of a bit more about belonging. The thing that I might need to transition on in my thinking with John Carter is not that he's represented as a leader, but perhaps he's represented as somebody who empowers other leaders. Because if you look at the two characters around him, like Dejah Thoris, for example, she is a very powerful woman in her place, to the point where the original novel is called Princess of Mars, like John Carter and the Princess of Mars. Like, she's completely relegated in terms of a title character on the banner of the movie. But I feel like the story could have been a little bit more compelling if they gave her a little bit more headline, because, you know, her belief in the ninth ray and in science was that alternative to war that she was talking about, because she says Sab Tharn is using it for destruction only, whereas she's studying the ninth ray because she feels like it could be a source of restoration. And it reflects her leadership, which is rooted in intellect and empathy, but it also reflects that cultural system, because as soon as like they saw her scientific experiment begin to work, they gave her credence and attention. But then when it failed, they were just like, oh no, we'll marry you off. Like, that's the only thing we could do. You did have a good idea, love, but unfortunately, you're just a silly girl and we'll marry you. Like that's all her character was kind of
step
used for.
back and that's it.
Yeah. So they gave her usefulness when she appeared to have value to the nation, but then her usefulness was relegated back to being a puppet to marry Sab Thorn and cause that peace. However, in terms of what I said before about her actions aligning with her values, her value was that wasn't correct. She should not be used that way. And her action was to run away and find an alternative. So she went and found John. So I feel like she's a leader.
That's the funny thing, though, because then she don't want to be used. So she ran away, found John, and then wanted to use John.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like this narrative really sidelines her, and it reinforces John Carter's physical dominance as opposed to her emotional clarity and intellect, which I think is what drives the narrative forward, really. That combined with like Taz Tarkas embodying that struggle, where both of those characters, Dejah Thoris and Taz Tarkas, are struggling to maintain their own ideals and values in a system that really oppresses that. So by contrast for Tars Tarkas, for example, Carter's actions are really reactive and kind of, I will say, self-justifying. Like he does bring peace through war, and Tars Tarkas is all for that as well, but he's also very empathetic and compassionate towards his own kin, for example, like Solar, which is very unconventional for his species, to the point where he's seen as an outcast. Like he's seen as a leader, but as soon as he shows those qualities, he's then seen as an outcast until John Carter comes along and obviously advocates for him. So perhaps I'm looking at John Carter in the way that I feel like he should be the leader, but I feel like perhaps he is then empowering others, as I said before, because prior to your comment, I thought that he really didn't do that in terms of the both armies, like the Tharks and the Heliumites, but he actually did do that in terms of the two individual characters from each of those races. Like for the Tarks, he did Tars Tarkas, and for Helium, he did the Princess.
And we haven't talked enough about Solar. Poor
Yep.
Solar, who gets strapped with this dude who doesn't know where he is, doesn't know what's going on, so he keeps trying to fucking escape, which keeps getting her in trouble. And all she's trying to do is just like, can you chill? Because if I get branded one more time, I am done.
Yeah.
And this dude just does not listen to her and just keeps fucking around. And poor Solar has to pay for it. The whole movie, Solar's just trying to like be the mother and be like, all right, kids, calm down. And everyone's like going crazy, running around, jumping around over the joint. And
well, that's, you could say that's her journey as like the mother in this space, because obviously Tars Tarkas says when the hatchlings are released, he's like, let Solar have a hatchling, and then everyone's like, fine, she can have the white worm, the white worm,
white worm,
yeah, which is like another shame on the family that Solar kind of just absorbs because that's
but constantly is taking it, and then but like the fact that she just keeps going, and like because I think she went to the River Thys to pretty much die. But then John was like, why? Why you need to? It's because it's the way. And it's like, no, fuck the way.
Yeah, but you can actually see like through little things that the director's done to show that this violence and this culture of like battle is rife through the Tharks. Because if you remember when the Zadangas came over and the ships were like firing upon them, and John Carter started jumping up and battling them, you can see that scene where all of the Tharks are actually like placing bets on the winner and who would wipe out one or the other. And you know, Tars Tarkas plays as his wager on John. He's just like, I put my money on John Carter. And you know, that's also when we see that the princess also is given value again for the power that she exhibits, because John says, you know, stand behind me, I'll protect you, to the point where she pulls out a sword and is then considered an equal because she's, you know, she doesn't need protecting or saving, as to your point before. She alongside him. So she didn't need that kind of empowering from him because she already had that. But I feel like to empower her voice, she did need John to do that. So I don't know. I don't know if I don't think she's well represented as a female sort of character in this, because I feel like she's only given credence and power when is useful to the male characters, for one. But then to your point, towards the end, she is then obviously given that leadership role over her father, and John does slide into that concubine position, as you might say. So yeah, I think that it's kind of a little bit muddy for me, the way that these characters run, but there's also like, there is a lot to digest in this film.
Oh, because it's already a built world. It's already built world. It's already inhabited. There's already a war started that happened many years ago. Like there's already so much thing that's already happened in the world and in the lore of this place, that one movie sort of isn't enough to sort of touch on it.
Yeah, well, in the first 2 minutes of the movie, we find out a few things. Barsoom is what we call Mars. Zidanga is a city that's causing death across Mars. It's a predator city. It's moving. It's devouring everything. It's draining all the life from Barsoom. We then learn about Helium, who stands firm against Barsoom, and it's the only one that does, and the airships, and it's an airship-to-airship battle, and there's also a sandstorm that's coming through. And, you know, Helium, which led Helium to have these massive losses, and as a result of that, Zidanga is just annihilating everybody. So from, it's literally 2 minutes, we just get dump after dump after dump after dump. And that's why I think, as I said at the start of this, when I was looking at reading the actual John Carter novel, it expresses the the world building as John Carter experiences it. So
Yeah.
as far as I've read into the book so far, I haven't heard mention of the Zerdanga people or the people from Helium, because at the moment John is still with the Tharks. So we're learning all about the Tharks. We know all about John and his life on Earth before he got transported there. We know all about him as a Confederate soldier, and we're slowly learning these things as it goes. So I think that, yes, Andrew Stanton tried to build this immersive and expansive world, which is great. It's probably one of the better things about this movie, to be sure. But I feel like the way that it was approached probably wasn't the best for new coming audiences, I would say.
We say this nearly on every sort of movie that comes from a book series. It's better
Should
off
have
as a
been a
TV
TV show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Give us more
Like,
time.
yeah, like it gives you more time. You can do it in sections. So like
Yeah.
you've got like an hour block that you can sort of thumb out. Like
So that slow burn is sometimes better, especially when the content is rich and deep. That's the thing. We need more time with John Carter's character, because I feel like his transition from I don't want to fight to anybody to I will now unite two large armies of people that have been warring for a long time against one common foe. I feel like that jump happens way too quickly. And I feel like the way that they band-aid it is that scene where Taz Tarkas sort of tells John, he goes, the Tharks will not, like, I won't be able to save this red woman, he says, if he doesn't agree to fight for the Tharks. And then to save her life, John reluctantly agrees to do that. And then that's when he gets the victory and everybody commends him, and you know, you made a difference today, Virginia, that kind of thing. So I feel like he gets that little taste, and we are given little tastes throughout the start of the movie where we see his virtuous side. We see that he doesn't really want to involve himself in a cause, and he's got this backstory, but I just feel like it doesn't fully come together for me, to the point where at the start of this podcast, when I was talking to you, I was like, is he supposed to be the leader, or is he supposed to be empowering others, or is he supposed to be, and I watched this 3 times. So I just think that it doesn't fully cohesively come together in a way that really sort of expresses what they wanted to with the character of John Carter. But I do feel like that Taz Tarkas and Deja Thoris should have gotten more screen time, because they definitely do show that that leadership is rooted in integrity over dominance, because those are the two characters who really go against their oppressors in terms of the cultural norm. And, you know, it takes an outsider to come in and show them, like, hey, this isn't right. So maybe those 3 as a trio are good. Yeah. But just needed more time with it, I think, Brash.
yeah,
Hmm.
and we can't forget like one of the most important characters in the whole entire movie, the young Thark, voiced by David Schwimmer.
Really?
Yep.
Wow. That's a deep cut.
Yeah, so one of the Tharks that yells out is standing on the rocks that yells out that the ships are coming.
Yeah.
Yep, that's David Schwimmer.
Wonder why he decided, maybe he was just on the lot one day.
Yeah.
Or they needed, maybe they have it on
'cause
recording or something.
Literally, like, he's not part of the cast. He's listed as a cameo.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about Matthias Shang for a bit here, because he's like the puppet master of this whole thing. And what did you say his people are the Therns, aren't they?
Therns. Yep.
Yeah, they're seen as
Therns.
this myth that sort of navigate across the land of Barsoom, to the point where, you know, they're so focused on this universal conquest, and, you know, they're starting with Barsoom, and they can see that people from Earth have increased strength, increased agility. It's like one person from Earth wreaks absolute havoc and mayhem across everything that they've been trying to operate here on Barsoom. And so obviously John Carter's a problem to Matthias Shang. So he sees John and Earthlings as this threat.
Didn't know that.
Well, I don't know how they wouldn't have, or maybe they didn't know.
Because no Earthlings ever been to Mars.
I'm of the opinion, and I got the inkling, that the Therns were originally from Earth. Like, I don't know what they are, whether they're spiritual or whatever, but they're talking about this river of Is, and when the oceans used to live on Barsoom. But yeah, Matthias Shang wanted to stop and eliminate anyone with knowledge of any kind of ninth ray, like at the wedding ceremony. That was his ultimate end goal at the wedding ceremony. He wanted to basically eliminate anyone's knowledge of the ninth ray, cut the head off the beast, is what he says. And then he says balance must be restored. So is he leveling the playing field? What's he doing here?
Because you see it on his face the first time that John Carter like jumps. And he's like, what the fuck? He didn't he had no idea that someone from Earth would have this kind of ability, because he didn't realize that someone from Earth was even there at the time. And he's like, what the hell? That's a person from Earth. And then he's like, sort of jumped around. And then that's why he's like, he's like, when you talk to him, he's like, knows where he's from because he's like he spends a lot of time on Earth. He's like knows
Yeah.
he's from like the South and
Well, yeah, he says that he knows of it. Yeah. So yeah,
but they I think for as much power as they have, they like because the thing I hated most about the Therns was I didn't understand their purpose.
mm-hmm. I was
So
just about to say.
is their purpose just to watch worlds burn and then watch them grow again? Is that what gets them
Yeah, well,
off?
they said because he said they've been controlling the destiny of planets for ages,
But
and
that
Matai Shang
destiny's
actually says to John, he
it's
doesn't
always
have
the
a
same
dog
thing.
in this fight. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, he says he doesn't. He says to John, he doesn't have a dog in this fight, and then Shang also says, I also don't because I'm eternal. Like
Mm.
I live beyond this as well. So to the point where it's like power through oppression of force is less powerful than being able to control those that are doing the destroying. Yet they're controlling the people that are doing the destroying. Like
Yeah, that's
Shang
the
feels
thing.
like
Like,
the death of the princess is going to be
but the thing is,
impactful,
like,
but
oh, this world's going to burn anyway, so we're
mm.
putting along. It's like,
And they use
okay,
that cliched term like balance must be restored.
yeah,
So
what
we see this massive like almost mythological religious figure of Matai Shang and the Therns just having a hand in every pie to the point where they infiltrate and
but it seems like
pose as different
what they're doing
figures.
because like,
Yeah.
oh, balance must be restored. Let's give a godly power to some dude.
Well, he was controllable. That's why they did that. And
Yeah,
that
but
happened
they're
quite quickly too.
but it's like, how's that balanced? That's tipping the scales.
It's very much tipping the scales to the point where they've given power to one to conquest over the other. But if you think
then
about it
again,
as well, it kind of did produce balance because the Tharks and then Helium rose up to unite and battle against the people from Zidanga as well.
yeah,
So, and then there's just so many pieces going on in this movie where Sab Thorn comes and essentially he's an ally because he wants nothing more than to marry Deja Thoris, and then like that was a big betrayal. It was just pretty
I would,
messy throughout,
yeah,
and
I just
motivations
would
were
have
fuzzy.
because I don't know, like they're all getting this from like the books and everything like that. But I would have liked a more reasonable reason as to why the Therns are intervening or why they care so
Yeah.
much.
Because if you think about it, the Zidangans weren't really like they were constantly warring, yes, before the Therns got there, but they weren't really bad, so to speak. They were just really kind of influenced by one Thern and Sab Thorn's will for ultimate power to the point where it literally caused a chain of events that led to everybody's kind of destruction and big vacuums of power and things like that. So, like, I definitely agree. I think the Therns in this space weren't as fleshed out as they probably could, but they were seen as like this overarching power, which may or may not have been resolved in later movies that we never got. But I think as an opening installment, there's
they're
just a lot.
internal, but they said how they're internal, but John like kills three of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah,
three,
yeah.
three of them he kills. He kills because he kills Mark Strong's like Matai Shang. He kills the one at the very start when he gets the medallion in the first place, and he kills the one that tries to take the medallion back that they said he found when he wants to get back to Mars.
Yeah, and the
When he
biggest
opens up
loser move John Carter did in this whole thing was throw away that medallion seconds before he got sent back to Earth. Like, what a dummy.
Yeah, he's like, well, I don't need to go back anymore.
Yeah.
Hey, you going back?
And on a synopsis point as well, moving away from the power discussion, on a synopsis point, like that last 20 minutes where he gets sent back to Earth and then it's like a speed run of the things he does to get back, that could have also been literally its own movie. Like that was just completely rushed to the point where they could have even just ended the film when he is happy at Mars on the balcony there. But I don't know why they chose not to. That again shows like the Therns' control over a different realm. But you know what I actually think? I think that they originally did this and they introduced the Therns and Matai Shang because they wanted them to be that overarching power that looms in the distance that everybody fears. If you remember Dungeons and Dragons, the movie, Honor Among Thieves, remember how like the rogue Hugh Grant's character, he was kind of pulling all the strings as the evil guy, but then in the shadows you saw that scene where there was that evil kind of wizard. What were those wizards called?
The Red Wizards.
Yeah, the Red Wizards. And literally that was probably preparing for the Red Wizards to be a villain later on, but we only just saw that one menacing shot of that dark person in the shadowy corridor in that movie. I feel like Dungeons and Dragons did a better job of foregrounding a future villain than this movie.
I would like Mark Strong is an amazing actor.
Oh, no faults on Mark Strong. He played a great
Um,
character.
oh,
Always plays a good villain.
but I feel like the Therns should have been, like you said, more in the shadows. I don't think you should
Yeah.
have seen. I don't think you should have seen it. You should have. You should have. You should have felt their presence, but not seen them.
Yeah, or even like a Thanos end credit scene doesn't have to be an end credit scene, but like Sab Thorne should have been, Dominic West's character Sab Thorne should have been the villainous villain of this movie. Like he should have been the focal point villain. And then at the very end towards this, we figure out, hey, Matthias Shang and the Therns are actually like pulling the strings on all of this. So that gives you the second stage of narrative storytelling where John Carter and
Hear me
Deja
out.
Thoris have to do that. Yeah, go for it.
Hear me out.
New segment, everybody. It's called Hear Me Out, where we
Hear me out.
rewrite movies.
So Mark Strong's character, you see him, but like close, and you don't like really see his face. You hear his voice, you know it's Mark Strong. You hear him, he gives him the weapon, he tells him what he needs to do, and then that's it. Vanishes.
Yes,
And then he comes,
perfect.
and then he comes in, and then when it all gets fucked up at the end, and John Carter wins and reclaims the weapon and blah blah from the bloke.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
all
and the
that kind
ninth
of
ray
stuff.
is back in the hands of Deja Thoris. Yeah.
Yep. Then at like the end credit, as you said, the Thanos thing at the end, where Mark Strong's character's doing something else, somewhere else thing. One of his other Thern members comes up and says, "We have a problem." And then
Yes.
it turns, it's Mark Strong. And
Brash, contact
boom,
Disney.
done.
Yes, my man.
Like something like that.
I
And then
love
that builds a thing of like, oh shit, now the Therns,
There's a bigger villain.
there's a bigger villain.
fish.
And their sights are now purely set on John Carter because he messed up their plans.
Yeah, and Deja Thoris too, because obviously she's the leader of Helium now too.
So,
but yeah, I think that would have been great. Like reduce Mark Strong's role to the point where he's the looming villain. Really focus on Sabthan Dominic West's character as the big villain of this story. Because you're absolutely right. At the start of the movie, give him the ninth ray, give him that ultimate power, make it like a looming sort of dark power, so you know it's a little bit naughty that he has it. Did not develop that on his own. Yeah, I think that would have been the way to go because I think they definitely did try to fit too many things in this movie. But it's interesting through this discussion with you. I've reevaluated my stance on like how I see John Carter as a character because being called John Carter and him being the title character and him being in a Disney movie, you think that formulaic operation has to occur where obviously Taylor Kitsch's John Carter has to be the one that's the hero and showing the leadership qualities. Through talking to you, I actually have seen that he kind of inspires the leadership qualities in others, which is one of the biggest qualities of a leader as well. So he is full of integrity.
He's a main character who's a support character.
Yes. Oh, yeah, there's a good... Mate, you're on fire tonight. That is so good. Because, yeah, you're absolutely right. Even though he does have some, like full-on action sequences, he's front and center a lot. But I feel like Willem Dafoe's development and Deja Thoris, Lillian Collins' development is definitely attributed to John Carter's presence and the shake-up that he provides. So, yeah, I think that really sort of summarizes it. So, do you want to go into our little rating here, Brash?
Rating.
So for me, I'll go first. I'll go first. So for me, I think obviously my nitpicks are that there's too much story in this to the point where like nothing is truly well done. But it does open up a lot of discussion for us, and I think the world is rich and vast, a lot of potential. Sad that there's nothing that has come of it. I would watch anything that comes from this IP in the future because I'm in now and I know the various factions and things like that. But this movie is in particular, I think nothing was really done well except for like the visual effects. I feel like John Carter is likable in terms of his role. I still think he uses the villain's tactics to win. But I do like Taz Tarkas and Deja Thoris, so I kind of gave it a serviceable 2.5 for me.
I watched this movie back in 2012 when it first came out, and I did really enjoy it then, especially for the time because it was 2012. Nothing overly spectacular.
The Avengers came out that year.
Yeah, before 2012, you had Iron Man. It was like fucking fantastic, and but like you also had movies like The Incredible Hulk that were like really not that great. This is actually not too bad. I'd really enjoy this, and because I love the world. I love world building. I love lore, and I'm like, this has the potential to be so good.
I could run a D&D game in this world. Like,
Same.
Honestly,
Same. Like
warring factions. Yep. Absolutely.
That's why like my current campaign, because I've started watching Black Sails again. I've created
Oh, yes.
a pirate
Good.
campaign. So that's the campaign
Great
I run
show.
on Mondays. So I really enjoyed this movie, and I still do. I still do enjoy it, even though there are parts. Because the thing that I think, if I'm nitpicking, that I hated the most is the writing and the writing dialogue.
The dialogue, yeah.
That's what I regret, and the whole purpose of the Therns, their whole reasoning, what they're just there to help the world destroy itself quicker.
Yeah, yeah.
What they got eternity is what they can't wait.
No, or just let it play.
Yeah,
Let it play out.
No,
Yeah.
that's like, but anyway, but I think also, I do think also the fact that Deja was getting close to working at the ninth ring also was the cause of them saying, "Hey, we need to get rid of Helium."
Yeah.
It wasn't so much Helium; it's just her. They just need to get rid of her. They could have just assassinated her at some point when she was sleeping at night.
Well, that's what I mean. I didn't get the full scene where Mark Strong's character does the whole monologue to John Carter, which is also a nitpick for me for all movies. I hate it when the villain monologues to the hero when they've got them beat. I'm like,
Yeah.
you know what's going to happen here. He's going to escape and use all the knowledge that you gave him to thwart your evil plan. Come on, Disney. Like, don't do that.
Thought my plans.
Like that's obviously pride and hubris in action right there. It's like don't posture and tell everybody your plan before it's actually fully.
Don't tell people you're
come to
internal when
completion.
you can get shot with a pistol and die.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Your rating, Brash. Your stars.
I give this 3.
Okay.
A
That's
solid,
serviceable.
Nice solid 3.
I will note before we put this on our fandom portals on a board, we do have a comment from Reload161, who's a member of our Threads community. They had a really sort of summarizing comment for this, and they said, verbatim, they're just like, geez, well, in the end, I wasn't a big fan of the movie. It felt kind of bloated, but that's not to say that there weren't some elements I didn't like. I really liked the score. I thought it had a pretty cool sweeping theme by Michael Giacchino. Then again, it's been a few years. It might have to be time for a revisit. So at the very least, the Fandom Portals podcast, we hope to do that by our enticing social media posts of the episodes we put out there. Give it a rewatch. Give it another go.
Another go.
See what you can learn from it.
Exactly. That's the thing. Especially
it's the shtick of our whole podcast.
When you watch something when you're younger, it's always good to go back and revisit it so you can try and catch the things that you may not have noticed. Because I always enjoy that, like rewatching something and going, "Hey, I didn't catch that before, but now I caught it this time." Or rewatching and being like, "I didn't see it playing out this way, or the theme of it being like this, but now that I'm rewatching it, like I can see the move from a different perspective."
Yeah,
I always enjoy that. And that's our whole purpose.
That is our whole purpose, indeed. 3 divided by 2. Damn it. So 2.75 is what it gets.
2.75.
2.75 between Brash's rating of 3 and mine of 2.5 out of 5. Well, this is kind of easy.
Kind of easy?
Yeah. So it sits 22nd on our Fandom Portals honor board. It is below Venom: The Last Dance and above the Ewoks Adventure. It is the only thing so far that we have rated 2.75.
Oh, shit.
There you go. So that was easy.
Below Venom.
Yep.
Above Ewok.
5. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have finished our episode on John Carter, the first episode in our new theme arc of Failure Isn't Final, where we have learned something today from this movie that has catastrophically flopped. We would be greatly appreciative if you would not let this podcast flop and you would share it with a friend on socials, or even just word of mouth does a great big lot for small podcasters like us. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll be currently seeing a picture of Ace, who is our third unofficial co-host, and Husky Pup that belongs to Brash, but is loved by me also, and he'll be very sad if you don't. So there's a little guilt trip for you. I don't usually do them, but here we are. Next week, Brash, we are doing your favorite movie of all time, Aragon from 2006. I love dragons, but Brash hates this movie. So he's going to hold all his comments off until next week's episode, but you can be sure that will be the synopsis of the episode, basically.
And also, guys, I love you all. I'm not angry, just disappointed. Speed Racer.
He wanted Speed Racer. Our community picks are final. We do have our community picks coming up as well, which is content voted by you. If you want to be a part of those sorts of things as well and disappoint Brash even more, you can get on our social medias and vote for the movies that he wants or does not want, however you want to feel. But Aragon is next up, and we'll be learning all about, or seeing what we can learn about from that flop. And Brash, I challenge you to find something that you learn from this
Positive
movie.
about it?
Yes. Finding the weeks to come. That one will be out very, very soon. Guys, before we sign off, we always do our gratitudes. For me, I'm grateful for my football team friends here at the Townsville Cyclones. It's a great bunch of gentlemen there. This morning, we went for a morning run, which isn't my favorite thing to do, but doing it with mates motivates me to do that. And they're a great bunch of lads to talk to. So thank you to the Townsville Cyclones. Thank you for the run club that happens on Sunday mornings, keeping me fit. They're all, I won't say incredibly younger than me, but there is between 5 and 15 years age difference between our youngest and oldest player. So I'm grateful that I'm able to spend my time with some amazing
Amazing
people
young
that
men.
help my mental well-being. But yes, your gratitudes, Brash.
My gratitudes. I am grateful for Instagram Reels. Recently, those food ones. Where
The food ones.
where people just make like these weird foods or make foods, and then you have other people who try and make them and see if they slap or not.
Very cool.
So I learned how to make Big Mac sauce because of that, and
Cool.
I made my own Big Mac burgers, and
Very
it was
nice.
absolutely delicious.
So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that is it for our John Carter episode on Failure Isn't Final. Keep learning, keep growing, keep loving fandom. See you later, everybody.
Bye.